Satanic panic is a theme that has been tackled in countless TV shows, movies, and documentaries. A recent example being the character of Eddie Munson in the Netflix series Stranger Things. But today we're going to take a look at a 2020 horror thriller that tackled the theme of satanic panic known as We Summon the Darkness, a film that I was drawn to honestly only because of Johnny Knoxville. That's right, the ringleader of the Jackass crew is hanging up his Chuck Taylors and throwing on some dress shoes to play a creepy pastor named John Henry Butler.
The evil that is heavy metal rock music is resolute, steadfast, and unwavering in its goal to corrupt our children's souls. Now, I know what y'all are thinking. Oh, but Pastor Butler, it's just music. It's just...
After sitting through about 30 different production company logos, We Summon the Darkness opens up with a title card that reads, Indiana, 1988. They knew exactly what they were doing when they picked that setting. We're then introduced to the main characters of the movie, Alexis, Val, and Beverly, 3 young ladies who spend their days listening to heavy metal music, reading 17 magazine, sucking on ring pops, and eating an alarming amount of Twinkies and Ding Dongs. They're road tripping to a heavy metal concert headlined by the fictional band Soldiers of Satan. Sorry, let me try to add a creepier vibe to that.
Soldiers of Satan.
Now that I've made your skin crawl from an overwhelming level of cringe, let's talk about the movie's soundtrack. The first song we hear is Black Funeral by Merciful Fate, which is definitely a good setup for the overall theme of the film, but don't get too excited because it's the only metal track in the entire movie, other than an original song by the fictional band that I just mentioned. As the movie begins, tensions are high, not only within the metal community, but to the average citizen as well, because news continues to spread about satanic ritual murders that are taking place throughout America's heartland. 18 people have been killed so far, and metalheads are being blamed for it. But after a quick detour to stock up on Jolt Cola, generic Pringles, and a fresh box of Twinkies, the girls continue their trip to the metal show. But on the way to the concert, someone in a shaggin' wagon throws an unidentified brown liquid at the girl's windshield.
Is it done? How much is in there? I got the poo on me.
Alright, relax, it was only a chocolate milkshake. But when the girls arrive to the venue, they see the very same shaggin' wagon parked outside, and after getting revenge with some firecrackers, they meet its occupants, Mark, Ivan, and Kovacs. And I'm not gonna lie, up to this point in the film, I couldn't really connect with the main characters of the movie, but I got excited when I saw that Logan Miller was in this, because I really liked him in the underrated 2015 film called Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. And he provides the same comedic relief in this movie that he did in that one. There is one thing I wanted to point out though. For a movie that supposedly takes place in 1988, they did a pretty good job with the set decoration and wardrobe, but I'm a huge nerd, so I immediately noticed that the Jeep the girls are driving isn't right. That Cherokee was definitely made between the years of 1997 and 2001. The taillights are a dead giveaway, but I guess most normal people wouldn't notice or give a shit. And before you ask, yes, I am fun at parties. But these 3 fellas are following the Soldiers of Satan along their tour throughout the United States, and they just so happen to have a magazine in their possession with a cover story involving the satanic ritual murders, which the filmmakers figured was enough evidence for the audience to pin them as the most probable suspects of those murders. But as the characters get to talking, it's immediately clear that Alexis is a bit of a poser, because she claims to be a metalhead but didn't know that Randy Rhoads died in a plane crash, and she also can't recall the first concert she attended, until Beverly chimes in by saying,
God, it's been so long, I don't think I can remember. That was
I think
like
he
really long.
said it was Scorpions.
Oh yeah, it was. That was awesome. It was an awesome show.
And I don't know about you, but I've watched enough horror movies that I pretty much predicted the rest of the film from this point on. Anyway, they attend the Soldiers of Satan show, and like, what kind of metal show is this? Where's the f***ing circle pit? I've seen rowdier shows inside of a Denny's restaurant.
What's up? What's up? What the fuck's up, Denny's?
After the show, the guys are invited back to Alexis's father's house, where she promises them access to booze, a killer stereo system, and Nintendo. And I mean, my dumbass would have been enticed by the Nintendo alone. But when they get to Alexis's house, my favorite dialogue exchange in the entire movie takes place, where everybody is discussing the upcoming Metallica album Injustice for All, and the fact that the band's new bassist, Jason Newsted, has big shoes to fill after the death of Cliff Burton. It's widely known that Jason's bass tracks were basically inaudible on that album, and this conversation was a nod to that. As the night continues, the group plays the drinking game Never Have I Ever, and the 3 girls take a drink after the question, "Never have I ever drugged someone's drink," is asked, confirming that they they have in fact drugged someone's drink, and the big twist is revealed. Mark, Ivan, and Kovacs were drugged by the girls, and they begin to lose consciousness. When they wake up, they're duct taped to chairs in a room covered with pentagrams and satanic writings. And it's revealed that Alexis, Val, and Beverly are members of a religious group called the Daughters of the Dawn, who are responsible for the murders that have been plaguing the heavy metal community. Basically, this group aims to ruin the reputation of metalheads by making it look like satanic ritual murders are being performed by them. If you haven't picked up on it yet, this movie is partially inspired by the West Memphis 3. I mean, the Mark character is basically a dead ringer of Damien Eccles. But Ivan begins to verbally attack the group's religious beliefs, and Alexis ends up putting a knife through his neck. R.I.P. Taylor Swift's brother. I'm not even joking, I had no idea who the actor was when I was watching the movie, but I couldn't help but laugh when I realized how much his character looks like the older brother in the Pixar movie Onward. The style, the van, the love of heavy metal music, it's uncanny. But after being seemingly not affected at all by the sight of someone being stabbed in the neck, Beverly stops the other girls from killing Mark and Kovacs and asks that the girls move to the other room to talk. Of course, while the guys are left to their own devices, they escape from the chairs and attempt to run. Kovacs gets sliced on the arm by a knife, and Mark fends off the girls with a Betty Crocker baking sheet. The guys run into a pantry and lock themselves inside, and this is where they spend the next 22 minutes of the movie. Unfortunately, this is the point in the film where it becomes evident that We Summon the Darkness didn't have enough material within its script to justify being made into a 90-minute movie. But Beverly is sent to the shed in the backyard to find a tool that can be used to break the pantry door down. Meanwhile, Alexis and Val spray insect killer under the door to try to poison Mark and Kovacs, when suddenly, Alexis's stepmom comes home and discovers Ivan's corpse. At that point, Alexis is forced to kill her stepmother, who also happened to call the police when she pulled up to the house and saw the guy's creepy-looking shaggin' wagon in the driveway. Beverly, being the newest member of the Daughters of the Dawn, is already a bit hesitant about killing Mark and Kovacs, but decides that she wants to save them when she discovers a stash of church donations hidden in Alexis's shed that the group's leader isn't using as intended, but instead pocketing for his own personal gain. A police officer played by the Kmart version of Danny McBride shows up. Val snatches his gun from his holster and caps him in the cheek, and Beverly rushes in, threatening to kill the girls with a fucking boat motor. Meanwhile, the guys escape from the pantry and Kovacs stabs Beverly with a broken bottle. This scene was so stupid because Beverly had clearly just announced that she was attempting to help them. But the writers needed an excuse to separate the girls and kind of pad out the plot, so here we are, I guess. Anyway, Alexis runs upstairs and plays the song Heaven is a Place on Earth by Belinda Carlisle for no reason other than to remind the viewer that this movie takes place in 1988, I guess. At this point, the main goal is to retrieve the keys for the Jeep so that Beverly and Mark can escape and get Kovacs to a doctor to tend to his knife slash wound. Beverly managed to snatch the handgun from Val and gave it to Kovacs before leaving him by himself in the living room. And this is where the fun truly begins, because look who finally showed up an hour and 9 minutes into the film, Johnny Knoxville. If you didn't figure it out by now, he's Alexis's father and the leader of the Daughters of the Dawn. Kovacs makes his way out to the front yard to seek help from John Henry, who he weirdly trusts enough that he hands over his gun. And of course, John Henry immediately shoots him. I'm telling you, man, this movie has some of the dumbest characters in horror movie history. But Beverly gets into a little bit of a tussle with Val in the basement, resulting in Val's hair being lit on fire. And I'm not a special effects guy, but this might be the worst fire effect I've seen in a modestly budgeted film. Not only that, but she runs out of frame for an off-camera death. What a cop-out. And need I remind you, this is an R-rated movie. They could have at least shown her all burned up like Chucky at the end of Child's Play. Come on, man. Wrapping things up, Mark made his way upstairs where he attempted to strangle Alexis to death, but John Henry shows up and shoots him from behind. John Henry then berates his daughter for her careless mistakes throughout the night and proceeds to attempt to kill her, admitting that he had planned to do so the entire time, because basically he wants people to fully buy into the satanic panic that is being spread, and he's going to claim that his daughter was consumed by it and joined a satanic cult herself. Beverly knocks his ass out with her trusty boat motor and proceeds to yeet Alexis out of the mansion's second-story window.
How do you do, fellow kids?
It turns out that Mark's gunshot wound wasn't fatal, so he wakes up and makes his escape from the mansion with Beverly. Alexis somehow survived her fall, and Beverly runs her over with the Jeep, and of course, the film cuts to a black screen right when she's supposed to be turned into roadkill. I'll say it again, that is a fucking cop-out. And I think that they were planning on making a sequel, because at the end, John Henry Butler is shown alive and well, talking about how his daughter was consumed by a satanic cult, and the film ends with Mark and Beverly driving off into the sunset with money that they stole from John Henry's shed. But I'm just gonna say it. This movie shouldn't have been made at all. I think this would have worked as an episode of a horror anthology series, you know, like the new Creepshow revival on Shudder, but this had no business being stretched out into a 90-minute film. I really enjoyed the first act, but pretty much everything after Taylor Swift's brother gets stabbed in the neck was a bit messy. And I decided to summarize the entire movie within this video because even if you decided to watch this movie on your own time, you probably would have figured out the twist within the first 10 or 15 minutes of the film. But I hope you enjoyed the first ever Media Pastimes Halloween special, and I have something really fun planned for Christmas as well. But I'll definitely have more videos out between then and now. And if you liked what you saw, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.